Hey, this is Dr. John Guyman, and we would like to welcome today Carrie Austin from True Change Counseling. Sorry, got my tongue tied right there. But Carrie, tell us a little bit more about yourself and kind of what got you into counseling.
Yeah, so I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, owner of True Change Counseling. It is an adult-focused, faith-based private practice, and I've been serving Cedar Park, Leander, and all the surrounding areas for probably about the last 11 years. I specialize in online couples counseling and spiritual trauma work. Been married to my husband, Jonathan, for over 24 years, and we have a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old daughter, 20-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter. When I'm not working with clients, I love painting and DIY home projects with my husband, adventures exploring Central Texas, and listening and playing music. I love helping couples and individuals find healing for themselves and for their relationships. I firmly believe if I can help marriages, that brings stronger families. And when we have stronger families, then we have stronger communities. So that's my heart for helping couples.
Awesome there. That's a huge part of that because, yeah, if we keep that couple strong, it helps not only them, but kids, everything throughout right there. So
Yes.
tell me, kind of especially with all the stress going on right now, if anybody's watching this in the future, this is September 2020, and so we're just barely getting through COVID. With that, we've had couples that have been a lot closer in kind of proximity for the last 6 months. And so tell me kind of, especially with all the stress and everything that people have right now, what are some things that people can do to help to cope with everything coming at them?
Yeah, I mean, what a crazy year. Oh
Yes,
gosh,
very.
it's insane. And yeah, couples and families have been forced to spend a whole lot more time together with these unimaginable stresses and changes that are going on. Um, I would say when I've been working with my couples, and I'm a therapist that likes to practice what she preaches.
Awesome.
And so this, I'm preaching to myself as I share these tips for managing the stresses that this pandemic world has brought us. But being intentional, couples being intentional about connecting. We handle the logistics all day long. But when I'm talking about connecting, it's really letting each other into how you're being impacted by those stresses, how you're feeling, and the concerns that you have, being able to talk through that, and just share a greater closeness. So we can be in the same home and not be connecting. Everybody's on their, we got the kids over here doing their virtual school, and we've got, mom and dad are in their respective places doing work online, and there's connecting that's going on outside with the world, but being able to really make some connection together. I would also say knowing what restores you and making time for those things. Again, we're some of us just trying to push through, trying to do the day to day, but we start running on empty and not doing the things, and we're having to get creative because
Very true.
with the things that we used to be able to do that would restore us. For some people that's meeting for coffee with friends, or visiting family. I mean, some of those things we have to get creative, and going to the gym. So just being able to tune into that and actually make time to do those things can help. And then the last one I would say is feeding a heart of gratitude, both individually and within the marriage and family. I think if we get focused, we can really get focused on everything that we don't have during this time, everything that's going wrong, because there's plenty to look at that's going wrong. But I think being able to turn our hearts and minds towards what we do have and have a heart of gratitude and focus. I mean, for parents, being able to focus your kids on that as well.
That is very true. That's the thing, especially that gratitude. That's one thing I've been trying to do over the last while is kind of, I start my morning very early. And so it's getting that time to go through what I call kind of listing 3 or 4 things I'm grateful for that happened the last previous day, to kind of start out there, and how important that is for my kind of life to make sure I'm starting out on the right foot. But for couples, everything to do that. There's
Yeah.
some important principles you talked about right there. So kind of, especially with how long you've been doing this, what are some other things you've seen that successful couples do? Because I learn a lot from kind of examples out there. And so with all the couples you've seen, what are some of the things that they do to stay where they need to be?
Yeah, well, and so I got to thinking, okay, successful couples. Okay, what are we talking about
Mm-hmm.
here? Okay, and so when I define successful couples, um, those couples that are lasting and meaningfully connected, you know,
Awesome.
so it kind of relates to what I was saying of that maintenance through stress, but lasting and meaningfully connected relationships is what I'm talking about with success. And those that are able to find lasting and meaningfully connected relationships, they are persistent in their pursuit of each other and understanding each other. Okay. I mean, do you have bad days where you have a blow up, or you're not connecting, or you feel distant, or even periods of time where that happens? But successful couples, those lasting and meaningfully connected couples, they always come back around and do what they need to do to pursue each other and pursue that connection. Okay.
Awesome.
They're also able to, they found an ability to continue to be playful and have fun together. This is like the adventures, I talked about when I was sharing about what I love doing. Well, going on adventures. My kids used to hate it when they were younger. Summertime, I'd be like, okay, we're going on an adventure today. But that lends to some excitement, some newness. And I would say those successful couples do that. They have a healthy balance of togetherness versus individuality. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where they can define themselves as we, but each of them still have the I,
Mm-hmm.
the things that I enjoy doing, the friends that I have. There's a balance of that. And one of the big ones is they don't avoid conflict. They understand that it's a necessary part of life together. Now, some of my couples I work with, when I say that, they're like, what? Yeah. Conflict is necessary. I tell folks, I get more worried about couples that come in and say, yeah, we just don't ever fight. We don't ever have a
Mm-hmm.
conflict. Because then I've been a part of a relationship over 24 years myself, and I'm going, well, okay, then somebody's not being honest.
Very, very
you
true.
know? And then they've learned how to repair hurt and work through conflict without hurting each other.
Awesome.
And with that, they're practicing forgiveness. That is a practice in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship on both sides. So those are some of the big things that I see in those successful, healthy relationships.
Awesome. I want to hear on something you said right at the very first right there, which I hadn't thought about, but I actually kind of do in a lot of other areas, is define what actually a healthy, strong couple is.
Yeah.
Just because how many people don't even know kind of what that picture is out there to know kind of how to get there along this path.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just that clarity, because if for some people in their mind, success might be, the 3 kids, professional careers, and, the mansion on the hill. That may be
Mm-hmm.
success to them. But when I'm talking about, as a therapist, when I'm talking about a successful couple, that's really, where I'm coming from.
Awesome. Awesome there. So kind of
Yeah.
let's hit the kind of flip side there. What are some things that you see that couples do that might make it so their relationship's not as successful?
Yeah. Oh, probably a lot of the opposite things.
Very true.
Okay.
Yes.
I think they fail to make each other a priority in the
Mm-hmm.
day to day. Too many things. When I talked about that persistent pursuit of connection with each other, couples that struggle or don't find lasting and meaningful connection, they let all kinds of other things get in the way of that. And the longer and the bigger that gap becomes, the harder it is to find each other again. They get stuck in routine in the process of that, and they just kind of start going through the motions of life and relationship. I mean, this is where I hear couples coming in and saying, like, we're like roommates, you know. Can't tell you how many times I've heard that before, and it breaks my heart. But and a lot of times when we start digging in, you know, they've not made each other a priority in the relation, you know, for each other in their lives. One or both partners, they kind of lose themselves in the couple dynamic, and then they struggle to find their own individuality. You know, so this is, like I talked about, healthy couples find a balance of that. But you know, where I see a lot of concern with couples is when, like their own individual identities get lost, and they're looking to that other person to find their worth and meaning alone. And that's a tall order for anybody. Okay. And that's where we kind of get into talking about codependency and things like that in relationships. So, and these are couples that also allow unresolved conflicts to build up. They haven't learned how to do conflict, or do it well. They end up hurting each other in conflict. That's a lot of times why couples avoid conflict. And they're not practicing forgiveness in the relationship. It can be very difficult.
Sounds like a big part of that is to continue to work on that relationship. And that's always kind of a big thing, no matter what. Because I kind of find no matter what's this or health or anything, once we stop working on it, you never stay stagnant. It's going to either go kind of down or up.
That's right.
So you have to continue to work on those things. And so tell me, I actually saw one thing kind of interesting I never really heard about. We talked about a little bit the other day on your website of brain spotting. Describe what that is and kind of how that kind of plays a part in this.
Yeah. Well, brain spotting it's an advanced brain and body therapy. It focuses on identifying, processing, releasing imbalances, trauma, and it can also even be just residual emotional stress. And it actually uses the field of vision, you know, kind of where we look, points in a person's field of vision that are holding trauma or those negative experiences in the brain. And those spots in that visual field are connected with spots in our brain that are holding that negative experience, trauma, emotions. We understand, as brain spotters, we understand where you look affects how you feel. Okay. So literally when we look at different places, we can feel differently. And this is usually one of the things that really surprises people when they start doing this kind of work. When a person can focus on whatever issue it is that they've brought in, they can look up, down, left, or right, and they'll find that they feel a lot more activated. I call it that emotional zing. It's more intense in one spot more than the others. And then if we focus on that area where they feel that activation and observe kind of what's going on inside as they're processing, the brain, our brain is amazing. I know, I'm sure, you know, in work you do, a lot of the brain going on there, but it's amazing. And it can find where that's held in our system, not just the brain, but our brain is connected to our entire body, right? And then begin to unwind and resolve it. And so, you know, when you are looking at that and holding that spot, that brain spot, you're literally looking at that spot in your brain at the same time. It's really kind of remarkable. It integrates well with a lot of other therapies. There's a lot of flexibility. So I'm able to integrate a lot of the other approaches with emotionally focused couples therapy and cognitive behavioral. It integrates so well with those. And it can be modified to treat treat really anyone. There's so many different ways and techniques for finding those brain spots. Clients report physiological as well as emotional symptoms that they come in with. They report them decreasing or even going away.
That makes sense.
Finding greater energy, less fatigue, greater clarity. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen is clients that have been stuck for a long time are able to find some breakthrough with that and clear a lot of that stuff out. So I love it. I love working with folks, especially to see them find some freedom from those things that have been weighing them down. So.
Awesome. And that's a huge area, because we talk a lot about that in our office, because we always mention kind of how our brain has made almost these files for us, where from whether it's trauma, whatever the situation, towards how did I survive this? But now a lot of times we've connected so many files that we tend to keep on wanting to go back to certain things, certain physiology, stuff like that, where half of our job is not only to kind of get people kind of living healthy, but also helping that body, that brain to start to realize, okay, there's new ways of doing stuff so it can get to healthier behaviors. So that's, I like that. I'll have to look more and more into that part right there with you.
Yes.
But so to finish this up here, so tell me kind of, you've gone over a lot of things here, but kind of tell me what would be your top 3 things that couples could start to work on right now to help them bring their relationship to the next level?
Yeah, so intentionality is huge. And so first being able, if they're connecting and they're talking about things deeper than just the logistics of life, them being able to identify their strengths and their growth areas. I think it's important a lot of times. Couples that come in to see me, they're coming in because there's a problem, and that's what they're focused on. But every couple has strengths, things that they do well, things that they get about each other. And I think, periodically taking an account of those strengths, but then also identifying the areas that they could absolutely stand to grow in. And then I'd say, second thing, identify those, but then make a plan, That's that intentionality to address the growth areas. Okay, whether that means, hey, we're going to be more intentional about spending time together. We're going to, read this relational book together, or we're actually going to go to therapy. Things like that. That you make a plan and be intentional about growing those areas, and again, being intentional about spending meaningful time together, and connecting. So
I like that last one there, because there's so many times that I know even me and my family, we're there together, but we aren't really there together.
Yes.
Like you talked about the very first, we're on devices or whatever and not really having that time. So making sure we're intentional on that time.
Yeah.
So tell kind of our audience here, if they wanted to do some extra work with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can go to my website. That's probably one of the key places. It's www.truechangecounseling.com. They can also find me by my name, Carrie Austin, LMFT. My phone number, 512-870-8331. I am shifting my practice to completely online, and everything. So it lends to a lot of convenience for folks that are looking for that. But I would say True Change Counseling, they'll find more information about brain spotting, online therapy, as well as a little bit more information about me.
Awesome there. Well, thank you so much for being with us there, and for all the great information you've just really shared with us. A lot of stuff to work on, even if we're a couple that's doing good, on how we can improve right there. So once again, thank you so much on being on with us.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. I've enjoyed it.
All righty. Thank you.
Thanks.